All right, so let's get into this webinar today. But first, Nola, since I know you, but not everyone does, why don't you talk a little bit about yourself and your time in BNI and anything
Okay,
else you want to share?
sure. I'm Nola Moon, the managing director for Florida West, which is actually represents chapters from Gainesville all the way down to Naples. And I joined BNI in 2005. I was invited by a good referral partner of mine. She invited me to a BNI chapter, and I really didn't want to go. But I went because I respected her, and I knew that I was just going to get her off my back by going to this one chapter. When I went, I was totally amazed when they started talking about how much money everybody was closing that week. And I thought to myself, you would be a ridiculous fool if you said no to this. So I joined that very day. And that was in 2005. And I've been a member and involved in BNI ever since. And it's changed. It's been life changing for sure.
Excellent.
Yeah. And just so you know, I live in Florida. Obviously, I am a cowgirl. I have horses and I like to ride in rodeos. So people don't know that a lot about me.
I didn't know that.
But yeah, and I am a certified promoter. I love to have fun. And my personal mantra is if it's not fun, I'm not doing it.
Fair enough. I like that. All right. So this webinar this week is talking about finishing the year strong. And the reason this topic came up, we were talking and someone said, you know, one of the things that we tend to not do is any work in December because it's kind of like, you know, we're doing whatever's going on, but we're not planning ahead because it's the end of the year and we're kind of at a stopping point and the holidays get in the way. But I know a few different people who have said, you know what, when December comes around, I have more free time than I used to have, even though it's holiday time. We're busy those weeks, but before that, the phone gets a little quieter. There's a little bit more time in the office during your workday. And there are some people who say this is the time to plan for 2022 so that on January 1st, you're ready to go while everybody is still just thinking about what they're going to do in the new year. So let's go through a few different things as we start the webinar. And of course, everyone, please use the chat to chime in and use the Q&A section for any questions you have specific for Nola or me. And we'll get right into it right now. So right off the top, let's start with a poll. I'm curious to know, how would you rate your year on a scale of 1 to 10? How did it go in business specifically for you? Did you make some money? Was your business building? Is it, you know, did you have any effects from COVID that, you know, set you back a little bit? This was, Nola, the past 2 years.
Oh.
And, you know, we're going to be talking about these 2 years for, you know, the next 10 years at least or more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a kind of a crazy year, but my goodness, we succeeded anyway.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have been innovative and, you know, figured, all right, if the way that I'm operating my business isn't working, I'm going to try something new. And that seems to have done well with a lot of people. We're going to close out this poll in about 10 seconds. So if you have any last minute voting, now is the time.
Yeah, so I found that I really had to stretch myself this year and last, doing things that weren't that comfortable for me because I just, you know, wasn't there very familiar with PowerPoints and Zoom, and that was all new territory for me.
Yeah.
So it's kind of scary, but you do it. And then you become an expert and you're like, well, that wasn't so bad.
Exactly. That's kind of like, you know, sometimes you have no choice, you know, you just get thrown into the fire and you just have to, you know, make a decision. So here we are, here are our results. And as you can see, for the most part, we're in the 5 or above, which is good. But there are, you know, there's at least one. Thank you for your honesty. Not everybody has had, you know, an easy time. It's been quite difficult for some people, especially based on what you do. So, you know, this is a good time to really look at the past year and figure out some ideas, maybe things to change, things to improve, things to consider that maybe you never considered before for the new year. All right, let's, I don't know, did I share those? Yeah, I did. I'm going to stop sharing. There we go. All right, so let's jump right into it. Tip number 1, clean out and organize your inbox. How many of you, like me, have, I don't know, I think I've got like 400 emails in my inbox at least. And I thought I was doing a great job, but they just keep piling in and piling in. So, I don't know if anyone, and you could throw this in the chat, has anyone hit that famous inbox 0? I've never even come remotely close to it. Nola, how have you done with that?
Not great. I mean, I try to stay on top of reading the emails.
Yeah.
But then they stay there. I don't file them. I do delete things that I know I don't need again, but I'm kind of like hold them dear to my heart sometimes.
Yeah.
And then I go back and look and there's something there from 2014 and I'm thinking, what the heck was I thinking? Why did I think I needed to keep that? So it is definitely a problem for me to go back and organize and clean up.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat right now, and everyone is talking about how hard it is because there's so much stuff. But I like the ideas of, unsubscribing to certain emails that you're getting too many of, doing all those things that, just make more sense for you to look at your inbox and not have anxiety before you open it, right? Like how many things are going to be waiting for me?
Right.
Really just doing all the right things it's kind of a mental space that you get into, and it's much more workable when you don't have 1,000 emails. I think you have to just look at what do I need to run my business every week, or my BNI membership, or whatever association you might be in, and some of the other stuff is just a lot of clutter.
Absolutely.
All right, so I think that getting this under control is a very important thing. But maybe more than that is the actual workspace. As paper gets less and less, you would think that it would be easy, but my desk is a mess right now. I've got various iPads, and I still have my turkey hat right here. I mean, I don't need the turkey hat till next year.
So Steve, it looks like you came into my office and took a picture of the before.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that looks like my office actually right now. If I could turn my camera around, you'd say, Nola, you need to work on that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, by the way, Jim Green just said unroll.me is a good tool for inbox issues. So there's a little tip.
Unroll.me, I'm going to write that down.
Paul has OCD, so this is not a problem. Good for you, Paul. Well, not for the OCD part, but for the organizing part. That is important. Yeah.
I love to see that there are people that are very organized. You are my friends. I want you to be my best friend if you're organized.
You know what?
I need
This webinar is all about honesty.
Yep.
This is the way it is, and this is what we're working on to get better, right? But
Absolutely.
I put that question in. How do you feel after you clean up your workstation? It's like I would like leave the room and go back in and look at it again because I can't believe it.
Absolutely.
But this is the time to do it in December, not in January. January should be a clean slate, ready to go. Holidays have ended. You come in and you're ready to work at your nice clean station, everything all neat and ready to go. Right. Okay, let's see. Yeah, Donna says she's always way more productive with a clean space. I agree.
Absolutely.
It's
well,
not easy.
I think partly what happens is when you clear the clutter on your desk and in your office, you're also clearing the clutter in your head. Because I tend to get cluttered up in my head sometimes. And when I'm in a clean workspace, I feel more focused and able to accomplish a lot more.
Right. Jill says before she leaves the office every night, she puts everything away and it helps her hit the morning running. Yeah. Wow. If you can do that, that's amazing. I'm not good at that. Sometimes I'm like, I have to stop here and I just leave. But then, you come back to that same pile. So yeah, it's not the best system. Running away, by the way, that's my system.
Right.
Right. So, okay. So next, follow up on everything. There are so many loose ends and things that we've forgotten about, things we wanted to do, like referrals and relationships, right? What about your own team? And by the way, if you work solo, you may still have a team. Like, for example, I work alone in my business, but I've got vendors that I work with. I've got people that I send work out to every so often. So I should touch base with all of them and make sure that everything is clear. We're all good and set for the next year. Hearing them out, getting feedback, always very important, right?
Well, and also, Steve, I'll add, what better time just to reach out to them and say, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Haven't talked to you in a while. Do I owe you anything? Is there anything that I've forgotten? Just touching
Yes.
base with them and say, you know what, how's your health? Are you good? Is there anything that I can do for you?
Yeah.
It's a giver's gain that way too.
Yeah. I tend to put all of my doctor's appointments towards the end of the year. So I've had my checkup. I've had my eye doctor appointment was 2 weeks ago. And yesterday I was at the dentist's office. So I got it all out of the way.
I tend to do the same thing. I was at the dentist office this week too.
Mhm.
Steve, we must be on the same wavelength.
There we go. And what about time off? Did you take enough time off this year? That's a good question to ask yourself, because a lot of times people say, all right, it's the new year. I get X amount of time off, or I'm planning X amount of time off. Did you actually take that time? I'm curious. Throw it right in the chat if you had more than, say, 2 weeks of vacation time. Sometimes when we are in business for ourselves, we are our own worst bosses, and we don't give ourselves enough time. So I'm curious to see all right. Donna took a week. Well,
Yeah.
Donna, it's such a neat office. You should take more than 1 week, right? Sean is like, yep, not a problem. All right, good for you. I think that's all we need is more people saying, you know what? Becky, yeah, Becky, you were around pretty much at a moment's notice. So I didn't think you took much time off.
She did go to Disney though.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Well, I'm going to take a little bit of time off, go big, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
4 days.
I take the week before Christmas and New Year's every year.
Kim took 4 days off. That's crazy, Kim. You got to do better than that. And look, it says when it's time off. Okay, well, I appreciate those go-getters who are building their business, but it is a nice thing to take a little R&R every so often.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's follow up next. Take some time to look at what worked and what didn't work. I think this is really important to do, to look back on the year and say, hey, you know what? Here's the success I had. And take a minute to soak it in and appreciate the work that you did to have success, because it has not been easy, right? But at the same time, look at what didn't work. Sometimes the things that we offer, our services, our products don't work now because of COVID for whatever reason, and we have to maybe change or modify or upgrade or bring in something new. So looking at what didn't work is also important. Maybe you just need to change maybe update your website, or maybe your marketing materials, or maybe it's the actual products and services that you offer, right? So I think making sure that you're evaluating, I think we're all constantly evaluating, but sitting down and actually writing it out, maybe. I don't know, Nola, how do you evaluate your year?
Well, I like to look behind. I always tell people, don't fret over what's happening right now. Look what happened 6 months ago, and you'll say, I learned a whole lot in these last 6 months. I thought that I was really struggling. So I think that it's good for you to be honest with yourself about what did you accomplish by looking back and seeing where you were 6 months or even 8 months or 10 months ago. But then be honest with yourself on what could I have done better? And I think if you ask the question, if your questions are better questions, you're going to get a better answer. If you say, why is this so hard? That's not a great question. The question is, what's great about this? So what was so hard for me was learning Zoom and being better at PowerPoint. But then as I did it, I was like, oh, just about every week I learned something new. And so be kind to yourself, allow yourself to celebrate when you have those wins.
Great. Excellent. All right. So Nola has a green thumb. Mine, not green. And that is kind. I can kill like a plastic plant. So, but Nola has been working on this. So, Nola, why don't you go through this talk about cultivating success in BNI?
Okay. All right. So I realized a while back, well, I grew up on a farm. I thought I could grow anything. And somebody had given me an orchid, and I thought I'll be able to grow it and get it to rebloom. And this is what it looks like. That was the first orchid that I had. This picture is literally a picture of the first orchid I got. It died. Excuse me. But next slide, Steve. I realized I did not know what I was doing. And so I gave up, and then I tried again. And I started reading, and I learned some things, excuse me, that there were some books that could help me. So I started getting educated. Next slide. My orchids began to show good growth in their roots and also in their leaves. And I started to get excited because I was seeing some success. And then I thought, I'm sorry, guys. Fighting a little bit here. I thought I want to learn more, even more from the picture of the Orchids for Dummies. So I started Googling, and I got on some videos, and I joined some social media, and suddenly I started having really good success. I got orchids that would bloom year after year. Next slide. I got hungry. I, in fact, became obsessed. I got more and more orchids. I got different varieties. I started showing really incredible success. These are literally pictures of the orchids that I've grown. I learned how to nurture them. I learned where they needed to have sun, where they needed water, when they needed it, not to overwater. Next slide. And I realized that I was officially obsessed. I knew I could even pronounce the words. There were words that didn't make any sense when I read them, but I heard other people say them. And so I realized that the way that I found success was I had to follow a process. And that's when I said, you know what, cultivating your BNI success, you can go to the next slide. Cultivating your BNI success is a lot like growing orchids. You may think you know how to do it, but until you really become hungry and obsessed and want to use the tools that you have, you will then really understand how to grow your business through BNI. I had, this literally is a Cattleya. The bloom was bigger than my hand. Wow. I had no idea that I could have this kind of success. Now, I didn't do it all by myself, but I did become a student of the Orchid Society. I moved on to a bunch of others, and I learned, how to fertilize. And what I did was I followed the success of those who were successful before me. And I think that is very important in BNI, that if you can see what is possible and you see the people that are successful, do what they do. Love what you're doing, and you are going to have success. You can go to the next slide. I do like to brag about my orchids. I'm not going to lie to you. I totally love it. And I made a goal. Actually, I made a goal when I started seeing that I could even grow roots. My goal was to always on my patio have at least one flower on a bloom, just one flower for every single month of the year. And do you know, I made that goal 7 years ago, and I have met that goal every single month for the last 7 years.
That's a lot better than that dead stick you had in the first picture.
I know.
Come a long way.
Who knew? I've come a long way, baby. And it's been a great, great amount of fun. Now, this is my showstopper, my dendrobium. I literally bought this plant at a yard sale. When I realized it was an orchid, it had no flowers on it. And I put it in a place that is very, very happy. And I applied all that I learned in my quest for how to love and grow my orchids. And that is my huge baby that I have now. So yes, I love my orchids, and I also love BNI. And if you can apply what I learned, you've got to take action. You've got to be hungry to learn. You want to determine what's best for you, determine what's best for other people, have patience, be dedicated, believe in others and believe in yourself. And then search for the tools. Thirst for new ways of success, and know that success does leave clues. And that's how I got the success with this orchid.
So this is a great story, and the photos are amazing, by the way. When I think about this, it makes me think about what are the things that I might want to try in the new year that I've never tried before, that maybe I'm a little concerned about the success of it. But if you don't start, nothing happens, right?
No, you'll never know.
Right.
So you got to take some chances. Don't be afraid to take a few chances here and there.
Right, absolutely. So you have something called the giving plan, which I think
I
people are going to be interested in seeing.
I do. This is what I love to do during December and January when I go and visit my chapters. And my team of directors and chapter success coaches, they also go and give these presentations to the chapters. And I call it the giving plan. And it's basically a goal setting exercise that members can do in BNI. And it's a very simple spreadsheet that I put together, just an Excel spreadsheet. And I've got the examples on the left-hand side. Anybody who wants the spreadsheet we can download it, I guess, in the chat, and people can.
We can't because this is a webinar.
Oh, okay.
It won't allow us. Yeah.
Well, if you want to email me, I'll send it to you, nolamoon@bni.com. Here's how you start. Decide what you want in your revenue for BNI for the next year. So I get using the example of $50,000. And then you decide what is your average revenue on an annualized basis for any new customer that you get. That's a number you know your business well enough, you know what that's going to be. So you can plug that number in. Then just do the math. Total revenue divided by the average revenue per customer is going to give you how many new customers you need for the year. So in this case, I use 25. That's correct. nolamoon@bni.com. The next part is very subjective. You have to determine what is your referral closing percentage. So think about the referrals that you've received from your members in BNI. And then, if you've gotten 10 and you closed 5 out of those 10, your referral closing rate is 0.5 or 50%. So then you can determine how many, if you know that you need 25 new customers and you know you have a 50% closing rate, just do the math. The 25 divided by 0.5 is going to give you 50. You need to have 50 referrals annually. So guess what? The math works. That's about 1 a week. So you've got 52 weeks in the year. You can very quickly see how many referrals you need over the next year to meet the goal that you have in BNI. So then the question is, how many referrals or how many one-to-ones should I be doing? If I know that I need to get 1 referral a week, how many one-to-ones should I be doing with my referral partners? And if you do one one-to-one and out of that you get a referral, then it's a one-to-one relationship. But if you think you need to do 2 one-to-ones to get 1 referral, then you can make a goal by you can actually know that the end you have in mind is the $50,000, and then you can commit to yourself, to your referral partners, and to the people in your chapter what you're planning to do. I'm going to do this many one-to-ones every week. And I have a goal to give you a referral, because we know if you have the giver's gain philosophy, I will give you a referral and I would expect to receive one in return. And so we have done this giving plan, and it gives people an opportunity to really break down into bite-sized pieces what they can do for every week next year. And then if it's not working, reevaluate it. In January, am I hitting my goal? Am I actually doing my 2 one-to-ones a week? Am I passing referrals? Am I receiving those referrals? And you have to look at yourself at this one too. You have to make sure that you're not just standing there waiting for somebody to give you a referral, but that you're actually educating your referral partners on what makes a great referral and who you'd like an introduction to. This has been a great way for people to raise the bar on the thank you for closed business that they experience in BNI. It's been an awesome tool.
Yeah, Nola, I wanted to just share with everybody something that they may not know about you, and that is your region has a ton of very successful chapters, but your philosophy is a little bit different. You're a bar raiser out there, right? You do power of 2, which is why Nola said her 2 one-to-ones per week instead of just 1. So why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, it's something that has just become a culture in our region that, if you do the work, you're going to create the thank you for closed business. So our bar has been do 2 one-to-ones, do 2 CEUs a week. And when you do that, the thank you for closed business is going to be higher. Our average thank you for closed business is over $100,000 per seat. And so if you go into it knowing that, you need to schedule at least 2 one-to-ones a week, and maybe you don't get them all in 1 week, but you can do 1 this week and 3 next week. It just is, it's the expectation. We start with the end in mind. What do we want to accomplish for everybody? We want everybody making more money. I like to call it the 5 M's of BNI. More members making more money.
Wow, excellent. So to be clear, this is not a requirement, right? Power of one is the way that we've always gone. But you know what? If your chapter is strong and in good shape and wants more, maybe something to consider, right? All right. So thanks for sharing that, Nola. I love that.
Sure.
Many people are excited about this spreadsheet, which, by the way, is a plan, not just the, well, I hope this year to make, and you pull out some number out of thin air. Really look at, what you need from BNI. And I think also talking about it in your chapter, putting it out there at one-to-one, saying, I'm expecting, 50, if I get 50 referrals this year, but I expect to give X amount as well. That's
Right.
what's important there.
Absolutely, because you have to start with that. You have to start with, what am I willing to give in order to receive? And one thing that's been powerful with this as a presentation from a director standpoint is, when you have everybody go through this exercise, then people will want to stand up and say, this is what mine looks like. I need to do, X number. I need this many referrals in order to meet the goals of, and so they can actually publicly say, this is what I am committing to do. And that's the old accountability. You've got some accountability partners that will hold you to whatever you say publicly.
Yeah. And so was that Jim? Yeah, Jim was asking, is it possible to do all this with just 20 people in your chapter? Or would you go outside of your chapter for one-to-ones? So people seem to be chiming in about doing one-to-ones outside the chapter as well. Nola, what do you recommend?
Well, my impression is everybody's in BNI, so it's okay to do a one-to-one with other people. But I think I would focus more on, how can we make my 20-member chapter a 30-member chapter?
Mhm.
And what can I do to make a 30-member chapter a 40-member chapter? Lots of reasons to grow your business, because the more members that are in your chapter, the easier it is to get the referrals that you ask for. Because if you think about, every person that comes in there knows 250 to 500 people. So the more people in the room, they're going to be able to give you the referral that you ask for more likely.
Yeah, I agree. I think you need to look at how much time are you spending working other networks and other chapters rather than your own. And if you took that time to grow your own chapter, would that be more beneficial? Probably. I know it worked for me. I was in a chapter of 17 or so when I joined it, and we got all the way up to 58 members at one point, and it made a huge difference.
Absolutely. I mean, and you're hearing every meeting when you have 60 members in your chapter, because I was in a 60-member chapter, you're hearing specific asks from people. And they're saying, I need an introduction to the owner of the car dealership at the corner of, First and Main. Well, there's 60 people in the room. Guess what? Somebody in there is going to know that owner. And so if you have 20 people in the room and you ask that same question, you're going to have a much less likelihood that somebody's going to know the owner.
Right. All right. So let's move on to this. Start scheduling your January appointments now. And I say this because you know how people get in the first week of January, well, I'm working on all this stuff I got to do, and they put you off or whatever. Now is the time to get them, especially, by the way, if you're going to meet before the holidays or during the holidays, a great time to do your one-to-ones. If just a quick Zoom meeting or something like that, maybe the week between Thanksgiving, the week between Christmas and New Year's is a very quiet week, but it's a time for you to be productive if you're working that week.
Absolutely. I've already got in my head, I'm already into January on all my appointments.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We talked about this at our previous webinar with Becky about holiday parties and saying yes to them. If you can attend, if you can make it, you never know who you're going to meet or what new relationship you can build.
Steve, can I just say this? Who says no to parties? Says a promoter in the room. Who says no?
Introverts.
Okay.
Introverts. Right. We're like, it seems like a pretty good idea, but I don't know about going there.
I love to go.
So yes, I have to kind of force myself to do this, right? See, Joseph
All
You
right,
and I
Joseph.
are of one mind. Yep.
Got
But
it. I understand.
but you know what? When you get out and you're the person who's not always there, you're like the center of attention. Like sometimes I walk and they're like, "Oh, look who made it," and I'm like, "All right, well, I've got your attention. Let's talk some business."
I love
So,
it.
yeah. Okay, and let's see. Look at that. We are at the end. Does anyone have any questions, any comments they want to put in to that? Jim likes the idea of power of two.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think Ron Leonard, who was an area director down in the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area.
Yeah.
He did a presentation at one of the conferences, and he said the power of one, the 100, being in the green, he said is the floor. He looked at it from that's the floor. That's the very minimum that I will do.
Wow.
And anything over that, it will get me success. And that is absolutely what we're finding here. I am in, somebody asked where I am in Florida. I'm in the kind of in the Tampa area. It's a little town called Waimama, and I can throw in my southern accent there, Waimama, Florida. Very rural town, and we grow lots of tomatoes here.
And it's called Waimama?
Waimama.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Small
Now
towns.
You know. Now you know.
All right, everyone, please give yourselves a CEU for being on today. Paul is ready to get into 2022, which is excellent. Let me give you a little preview before we sign off of next week's webinar. I have my friend and business coach, Nancy Cantor, who's been on the webinar before, and she's talking about personal growth intersecting with professional success and how the two work together. So for those of you who haven't taken any vacation time and all that, remember that our careers are meant to build our life, right? And so that's what we'll be talking about. It's going to be a really great one. And Nola, thank you for being on today. That was great. I love your orchids and everything that you presented today.
Thank you very much. I love being here. I'm glad I can always share my orchid pictures too.
Excellent. Well, we'd love to have you back again sometime. Thank you all for being on, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.